roughly 360,000 Israeli military reservists. 360,000 are answering their country's call to arms to help fight a war against Hamas. Now, while most reservists were already in Israel at the time of the call, some returned to fight from their honeymoons. Others were studying abroad and building new lives in foreign countries. Among those called up to serve were some of the members of this team, the Israeli bobsled team. But instead of training for the Olympic Games at Lake Placid in New York this weekend, as was the original plan, they're actually going to be serving alongside their country's military instead. Joining us now on set is AJ Edelman, a member of that Israeli bobsled team. AJ, it's an honor to have you here. I'm grateful for you to have a voice for your teammates, the boys that you call them, that are answering the call for defending their home country. But I wanted you to take the time to explain to our viewers, when you spoke to them, and there's 4 of them from your team that are over there right now in Israel, why they told you that they were going to go back to Israel and put their lives on the line.
So the bobsled team is a very special team. It's a group of actually in a 4-man bobsled team, you want more than 4 people. So we actually have 6 or 7 individuals. They all live in Israel, but they usually come over for the winter to train. All of them have essentially been called up for different posts, except for myself, because I moved to Israel too late in life to serve in the military. Israeli athletes are representatives of their country, and they know that they have a special responsibility to represent the country. But when this event occurred, for many of us, it's the first time in our lives that we really have realized that there is something that is a truly existential crisis that is unfolding, that there's a much greater call to serve. There's a much greater call to stay in Israel. A couple of the team members who were supposed to come over this year have not yet been called, but they've just said, we can't leave. We cannot place sport as a priority over the safety of our neighbors, the safety of our wives, of our children. I think everyone in Israel, the degree of separation is 1. So everyone in Israel knows someone who has been directly impacted, or is someone is searching for a family member. The phones are blowing up at all times of the day. Have you seen this person? Can you find them? There are people who are still missing. And so it's a very, I think, tense but resolute mentality that the athletes have.
I want people to understand, too, the ages. I asked you before we started this segment, the ages of the young men that are a part of your team that heeded this call to serve. How old are they?
So the team members have ranged between ages 20 to 28, 29. The team members that are currently serving now that have been called up for the reserves, 22 to 28, 29. One of the very special boys on our team, Ward, he's 28 years old and they have moved on with their lives after military service. Everyone in Israel has a compulsory military service, and they've essentially moved on with their lives, and we're preparing for other things. And now they realize that this is the reason that they serve the country. This is a very important responsibility and role for them.
And you mentioned Ward. He has a very kind of special role in all of this. Not only is he somebody that you look up to on a personal level, but talk about what his background is and why it's particularly compelling that Ward felt the need to actually go and fight as well.
So Ward is a member of a very special group of people. They're Arab Druze. So the Druze people, D-R-U-Z-E, not to be confused with Jews, are an ethnic and religious minority. They have communities throughout the Middle East, and in Israel they're not compelled to serve, but Ward has served, and Ward is currently serving. I spoke to the rest of the team members last night. We have a couple of other Druze on the team, a couple of whom are not yet serving, but are cousins with Ward and have said that he's essentially not able to answer at the moment. The messages aren't getting through because he's serving in a very special capacity. But I do look up to him. I think everyone could take a lot of inspiration from him, because when the call was put out to serve, Ward went immediately.
Didn't hesitate.
Never. I would never think that Ward would hesitate. His character is he's like an oak. He's amazing.
A minute ago, you talked about how there's this 1 degree of separation, if that, for not only the members of your team, for most Israelis, even Americans that are here have been impacted, obviously. Have you been directly impacted by what's happened?
Of course. My parents were there when the conflict unfolded over the holiday. I shouldn't even call it a conflict. When the massacre unfolded over the holiday, Many of the people who I've known who have been messaging me have said, we have family members who are missing. We've had family members who were killed. A couple people who I know had friends who were killed in the Desert Music Festival massacre. And the question is just, what do we do, right? What happens at this point when for context, I think a lot of people have heard the numbers of it's akin to, in the United States, if 35,000 people were just suddenly gone. What do you do after an event like that? How do you reconcile moving on? What is the next step? And I think almost everyone, it's important to remember there was an amazing degree of disunity in the last year over the judicial reforms and the political situation inside of Israel. Reservists at the time, some of them threatened not to serve, not in a conflict like this, of course, but not to do their service. There was incredible amounts of division. 300,000 people in the streets who are protesting the domestic policies of the Netanyahu government. And all of a sudden, everyone within a day, in a few days, a unity government came together and everyone agrees this is the time that we have to pull together. This is the time that we have to do something that finally addresses this problem of what do you do with a neighbor? What do you do with a government that is sworn to kill your children, that in their charter, it says you do not have the right to exist?
And what some have done, including your teammates, is heed that call and go to serve. A.J. Edelman, I appreciate you being here, for being a voice not only for your family, but also for the members of your team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just say one more thing?
Sure, very quickly.
So over the past week, it's been amazing to see the responses throughout the rest, in the rest of the Western world, as people taking sides on both of this. And I think that's very important that people internally look at where you stand on various issues. We all should be educated on things. But it is really important to ask yourself, is there anything that a human being could ever have done in their lives that would warrant someone to go and bludgeon a child to death, to steal a child from their crib, to rape someone in front of their family members, and then to live stream it? These are people who don't agree with our way of life. They're not people who you trust. I'm talking about Hamas here. They're not like you and me. They want us dead. And so when people stand in the street and they say, this is the result of X, Y, and Z, nothing could ever excuse that. Nothing could ever excuse someone doing that. That's not human behavior. It's not Western values. I think we need to take a hard look at ourselves when we excuse that.